episode of Social Web TV. Chris and I have been in Washington, D.C. for the past 2 days, attending TransparencyCamp.
Yep.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what TransparencyCamp is?
Yeah, actually, sure. So TransparencyCamp basically is this bar camp-like event. Of course, no preset agenda or schedule. People show up and talk about things related to making the government more transparent, and that of course revolves around things like open data, access to government data, things of course like in our realm, identity, and so on. So I guess that was sort of like some of the simpler things, or that well, not simple, but something we talked about.
Yeah, probably about 100 people there. It was really interesting, sort of mix of people from the private sector.
Yeah,
was
it 150 or so? I mean, it was pretty well attended.
OpenID Foundation was one of the awesome sponsors for it.
That's right, last minute.
Yeah, a whole mix of open source to people working directly within the government and agencies there. And lots of interesting conversations, sort of a lot of different things focused on how do you better engage citizens, how do you get people to how do you make government websites which are more participatory, going and using things like Drupal as a CMS, lots to talk about blogging and identity and APIs, all sorts of stuff like that.
Well, I think, in terms of our participation and things that we talked about, I mean, we did a presentation on the DISO project, and kind of helping folks from the GSA, State Department, Department of Defense, OMB, a number of different government agencies to sort of understand more about what we do, but also what these technologies are good for, and how to understand, how to apply them, I guess, to opportunities and things that they want to see happen. So as they want to move into more social media and actually do things that are more transparent, how can we provide them with technologies that have been working for us out in Silicon Valley in a way that kind of makes government websites a little easier to use by getting hip to some of the things that are happening in the social web.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was happening a lot was making that connection between the East Coast and the West Coast. And so we actually also had a session on OpenID and government, and thinking sort of brainstorming with a bunch of people there about how might OpenID be applied, and sort of, I think we had 3 things sort of emerge from that as possible ideas.
So I think the first one is thinking about how people can use OpenID as a way of increasing engagement, really. One of the problems that we see is that a lot of government sites, of course, require you to have some unique account that you can only use in one place, and that's really inconvenient when you're actually trying to engage, as a citizen across government sites. So the thing that we're sort of trying to talk about is, well, if the government or government sites became a relying party for OpenID, how could you at least allow someone to use an account that they already have in a way that's more convenient for them, so that they don't have to have yet another password, which they have to reset and remember and all that stuff. That we've seen work pretty well with the social web.
Yeah, and that's really not having to do with are you actually Chris or are you David, but
right.
more of being able to start to have, if you want to, a consistent identity that you can interact with various government websites, being able to sort of build up a profile, all the same sorts of things that have been happening throughout social networks and social media the past few years. Now it's the time that the government started to pay attention.
So this is sort of like, the lightweight identity layer that allows people to start building upon that and building very lightweight sort of reputation systems to understand, this person who commented here is also the same person that commented there. And so you can start to see who are, actually providing very meaningful and useful commentary on any number of types of media on these sites.
Yeah. And then the second thing that we were talking about, which starts to get a little bit scarier to confront some of the privacy aspects, or at least certainly more complicated.
Things that we're going to have to address, clearly.
Is figuring out how to use OpenID for interactions with the government where you actually care that they know who you are. So this is going in, being able to interact maybe with the IRS, where you're already saying, well, this is my social security number because I want to pay my taxes, or going and interacting with DMVs at state levels, or we're talking with some people. There was a guy there from Congressman Mike Honda's office, and Mike Honda has the district in California which covers Silicon Valley, and so they were talking a lot about how can they go rebuild their website, use CMSs, and interact with their constituents. So being able to go and say, I'm actually from this district as I'm interacting with their website, being able to start doing some things which match offline identity with online identity in a way that's not overbearing for privacy and all that sort of stuff.
I mean, part of the conversations that of course came up were around, being able to bring identity from a number of different websites together to know more about you. And there's arguments for and against that. On the one hand, I think that there's a great opportunity here for government websites to become more service-oriented and really focus on customer experience, and to make the process of interacting with and dealing with the government a lot more efficient and effective. But of course, that should be countered by the concept of using those things in an opt-in kind of way, where if you want to make things more efficient for yourself by sacrificing some of that privacy, then you should have the option to do so. If you don't want to go down that path and you want to make things less efficient for you, but where you actually keep your privacy by sort of sharding your information across multiple sites, then that should be supported by this technology as well. So fortunately with OpenID, that's actually possible. Nothing about OpenID sort of defines the exact way that the protocol is used, and that creates a flexible opportunity to deal with these things in a way that I think offers a great deal of flexibility in terms of actually how this stuff is implemented.
Yeah, so it's sort of a lot of different things about how do you make it easier for people to interact and participate with government, engage with government. But we're sitting in the Dulles airport, a giant group of people are sort of starting to gather around us before we jump on Virgin America and fly back to San Francisco.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, another short episode of the Social Web TV on the road.